Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. It was close to midnight when I felt the faint creak of my bedroom door. At first, I thought it was just the house settling, but then I saw him, my stepson, standing there in the dim glow from the hallway. His father was asleep just one room over, yet here he was, hovering silently at my doorframe, eyes locked on mine as if he'd been working up the courage for hours. The air grew heavier. My pulse quickened, a nervous rhythm pounding in my chest. He stepped closer, slow and deliberate, every movement pulling me into the tension that filled the room. I couldn't look away. His gaze was unwavering, sharp, and strangely knowing, like he'd already decided why he was there. When his hand brushed against mine, it wasn't an accident. The touch was feather-light, but it sparked through me like a sudden jolt. I froze, caught between instinct and curiosity. He leaned in slightly, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath against my cheek. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Silence can be louder than words, and in that silence, I heard everything: his intent, my hesitation, the dangerous thrill of being caught. I whispered his name, more a question than anything else, but he only smirked, playful, bold. The kind of smirk that said he wasn't afraid of testing limits. My heart raced faster, my hands trembled slightly, and I found myself wondering if I should step back or lean in. The distance between us shrank to nothing. The tension was unbearable, a storm ready to break. My lips parted as if to say something, but before I could, the night didn't begin with danger, it began with distance. My husband and I had been drifting for months. He still shared the same bed, the same roof, the same daily routines with me, but the spark between us had faded into something closer to silence. Conversations were short, touches were absent, and his affection felt like a memory. I told myself it was just a phase, that marriage went through seasons, but deep down, I felt invisible. And yet, when his son came to live with us, everything shifted. At first, it was subtle, small glances across the dinner table, the way his laughter carried more life into the house than I'd felt in years. He was younger, but sharp, confident, and not afraid to say the things his father never did. He noticed when I wore a new dress. He complimented the way I cooked, the way I arranged flowers on the table, even the way I smiled when I thought no one was looking. Little things his father used to notice but hadn't in a long time. I hated how much I noticed him back. I told myself it was harmless, he was family, after all. But family wasn't supposed to make your heart race when your fingers brushed accidentally while passing a plate. Family wasn't supposed to make you replay conversations in your head late at night, wondering what he meant by the way he looked at you. There were cracks in my marriage that I never wanted to admit to. I craved warmth, affection, connection, but my husband was always tired, distracted, half absent even when he was physically present. I longed for someone to look at me and truly see me again. And the unsettling truth was that his son did. It wasn't just the attention, it was the tension. Those stolen glances that lasted too long. The playful remarks that carried a hidden edge. The way he'd linger nearby as if testing how close was too close. My pulse betrayed me every time. A storm was building between us, and every day I felt less capable of denying it. That night, when he stepped into my room, it wasn't random. It was the moment every small brush, every quiet silence, every look across the table had been leading to. My husband asleep just feet away, unaware of the invisible thread tightening in his own home. I didn't know if it was danger, desire, or both, but I knew one thing: there was no going back. Jealousy has a way of creeping in quietly, then striking hard. I didn't want to admit it, but every time I caught my stepson's eyes lingering on me, every time I caught myself lingering back, I felt something I couldn't put into words. It wasn't supposed to happen, and yet the forbidden nature of it made the tension unbearable. At dinner one evening, my husband barely looked up from his phone. I served his plate, waited for even a thank you, but he just mumbled and kept scrolling. Across the table, though, his son watched me. His gaze was steady, deliberate, a kind of silent appreciation that made my pulse quicken. He didn't need to say a word, his attention spoke louder than anything his father had in months. I caught myself blushing, hiding behind my glass of wine. It was wrong, dangerously wrong, but it also awakened something inside me that I thought was long gone. My husband used to notice the details, my perfume, my new dress, the way I styled my hair, but now, the only time he noticed me was if I forgot to pay a bill. Later that night, the tension reached a breaking point. I was in the kitchen cleaning up when I felt him step in behind me. The space suddenly felt smaller, the air charged. I could feel the heat of his presence before I even turned around. "You shouldn't do all this alone," he said softly, his voice close, closer than it should have been. My heart pounded. I turned, and for a moment we were standing far too close, the kind of closeness that begged for something to happen. And then, as if fate wanted to test me, my husband called from the other room, asking where his keys were. The sound shattered the silence, but not the pull between us. His son smirked, almost daring me, before stepping back just enough to make it look innocent. I exhaled, trying to steady myself, but the truth was undeniable. The temptation had already set its roots. And it was only a matter of time before something snapped. The house was quiet, too quiet. My husband had gone to bed early, exhausted from work, leaving the air thick with a silence that felt dangerous. I was in the living room, pretending to read, when I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate. My heart skipped as he appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable but his eyes fixed on me. "You're still up?" he asked, voice low, almost a whisper. I nodded, my fingers tightening around the book I wasn't really reading. "Couldn't sleep." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The sound of it latching echoed louder than it should have, making my pulse race. Suddenly, the room felt smaller, as if the walls were closing in around us. He sat down beside me on the couch, closer than necessary, his shoulder brushing mine. That small contact sent a wave of heat through me, and I froze, torn between pulling away or leaning into it. He noticed, of course he noticed, and his lips curved into that infuriatingly confident half-smile. "You're shaking," he whispered. His hand hovered near mine, close enough to make me tremble but not quite touching. It was torture, that nearness. "I'm fine," I whispered back, though my heartbeat betrayed me. The tension was unbearable. Every second stretched longer, every breath heavier. He leaned just slightly, close enough that I could feel the warmth of him, close enough that I knew if either of us moved just an inch more, the line we had been dancing around would finally shatter. For a moment, the world outside didn't exist. It was only us, the forbidden pull, the dangerous temptation, the hunger for something I hadn't felt in years. His eyes searched mine, daring me to close the distance. And just when it felt inevitable, when the storm was about to break, a floorboard creaked upstairs. My husband shifting in his sleep. We froze, both of us holding our breath, caught between fear and desire. The silence that followed was deafening, the tension thicker than ever. And in that suspended moment, I realized, there was no escaping what was coming next. The silence in the room was unbearable. His eyes stayed locked on mine, daring, unflinching, waiting for me to break. My breath hitched, and before I could stop myself, I whispered, "Why are you doing this?" He leaned forward, his voice a low whisper meant only for me. "Because someone has to tell you the truth. He's not the man you think he is." The words landed like a blow. My chest tightened. "What are you talking about?" He hesitated only a moment, then pulled out his phone. A photo flashed on the screen, my husband, laughing, his arm wrapped around another woman. My stomach dropped, the ground beneath me shifting. "No," I said, shaking my head, though the evidence burned in front of me. "He's been lying to you for months," he said, his voice raw with anger. "I didn't want to be the one to show you, but you deserve better than to sit here, waiting for a man who's already given his love to someone else." Tears pricked my eyes. The betrayal was suffocating, but alongside the pain came something else, a fire I hadn't felt in years. The stepson wasn't just stirring trouble. He was shattering the illusion I'd been clinging to. And in that moment of raw truth, the air between us changed. The tension wasn't just attraction anymore, it was a storm of betrayal, desire, and the terrifying freedom of knowing my life could never go back to what it was. Before I could respond, a voice cut through the air. My husband's voice. From the doorway. "What exactly," he asked, his tone cold and sharp, "is going on in here?" The blood drained from my face. My heart stopped. The secret was no longer in the shadows. Everything was about to explode. The room froze the moment his voice cut through the air. My husband stood in the doorway, his shadow stretching across the living room like a blade. His eyes weren't just on me, they were on his son, the phone in his hand, and the damning truth glowing on the screen. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My throat burned with words I couldn't form. My husband's expression hardened, jaw tight, fists clenched at his sides. He wasn't just angry, he was cornered. "So this is what it's come to," he said coldly, stepping into the room. "You two whispering in the dark, plotting against me." His son didn't flinch. "No," he said firmly. "I'm showing her what you've been hiding. She deserves to know." He thrust the phone forward, the photo still bright, my husband's betrayal undeniable. For the first time, I saw fear flicker across my husband's face, quickly masked by rage. "You think you can destroy this family with your childish games?" My chest ached as tears blurred my vision. "Is it true?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Tell me right now, is it true?" Silence. His refusal to answer was louder than any confession. My world crumbled in that pause. "Yes," his son broke in, his voice sharp. "It's true. He's been lying to you, sneaking around while you've been here, loyal, waiting for scraps of his attention. You deserve better." My husband turned on him, fury blazing. "Stay out of this. You don't know what you're talking about." "I know enough," his son shot back. "And I'm not going to let you keep treating her like she's invisible." The confrontation erupted like a storm of shouts, accusations, years of resentment spilling into the open. My husband's betrayal, my silence, his son's anger, it all collided in a chaos of truths that couldn't be buried anymore. Finally, I broke. My voice cracked, raw and trembling. "Enough." Both men froze. Tears streamed down my face, but there was steel in my voice now. "I won't live like this anymore. The lies, the neglect, it ends tonight." My husband's face went pale. He opened his mouth to protest, but I shook my head. "You made your choice when you betrayed me. Now I'm making mine." The silence that followed was deafening. My husband stood rigid, breathing hard, but he had nothing left to say. He turned sharply and stormed out, leaving only the echo of the slammed door behind him. The room was heavy with the aftermath. I sat back on the couch, drained, trembling. His son stood there quietly, watching me, his expression softened. No smirk, no teasing, just steady, unspoken support. I wiped my tears, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the weight lifting. The story wasn't over. But tonight, a new chapter had begun. After the storm of shouting, betrayal, and slammed doors, the house felt unnervingly quiet. I sat there on the couch, my hands trembling as I wiped away the last of my tears. The truth was out. The walls I had been holding up for years had finally crumbled. And then I felt it, a gentle touch on my shoulder. I looked up and saw him standing there, not bold or teasing like before, but soft, steady, and careful. His eyes weren't filled with mischief now, they were filled with understanding. "You don't have to be strong right now," he whispered. The words unraveled me. I leaned into him, letting myself rest in the comfort of someone who, for once, truly saw me. His arms wrapped around me, protective, not demanding, not rushed. Just safe. For the first time in years, I felt warmth where there had been only cold distance. My heartbeat slowed, matching the calm rhythm of his. The silence wasn't tense anymore, it was healing. I pulled back slightly, meeting his gaze. Why are you doing this for me? I asked, my voice breaking. Because you deserve to be loved, he said simply. Not ignored. Not broken down. Loved. Tears filled my eyes again, but this time they weren't only from pain, they were from hope. He brushed them away gently, his fingertips light as feathers. The closeness between us carried no fear now. It was inevitable, natural, undeniable. Our foreheads touched, a quiet promise in the softest gesture. It wasn't reckless or forbidden anymore. It was a bond born from truth, from seeing each other when no one else did. And when his lips finally met mine, it wasn't fire and danger like before. It was warmth, tenderness, and the kind of connection that makes the world fall silent around you. I knew life wouldn't be easy. Choices would have to be made, wounds would take time to heal, and tomorrow would bring its own questions. But for that moment, there was only us, two souls who had found each other in the wreckage, choosing love over silence. The storm had passed. What remained was something real. Something that, against all odds, had finally found a way to bloom.